And welcome to what has quickly become my favorite day of the week, Friday. Excited to close out a very productive week. Lots of good things happening, lots of meetings, lots of good stuff. But the Huddler in the hot seat today, we have two Huddlers in the hot seat. One is an entrepreneur friend of mine forever. Little backstory. I was up in Atlanta going to see the SEC championship, Mark, when you were coaching. And I was introduced to Rob Vaka, spent some time with him at the lobby of the W Hotel. Awesome first meeting. 3 days later, there's a pair of Ferragamo shoes at my door. This motherfucker could play, man. So we've been fortunate to know him, love him, watch him grow businesses in different ways. And then he partnered with John Brenkus, who you may remember from Sports Science on ESPN. Another awesome, innovative dude. Good news is that Sports Science is coming back. There's lots of fun stuff, but it's the one question I have for you, Mark. Are you ready for some football?
Oh, I can't wait. This is a fantastic kickoff to the football season. High school football for Florida kicking off tonight, really, with the season starting. You got college games starting on Saturday. So it's going to be a great conversation. I'm super excited. You know, Rob's got a son who's being recruited for college football.
Actually, you hold that thought. Show me Kyle Vaka.
Obviously, three receivers left side. Vaka at the very bottom on that formation. Clavon's going to crank it up. He's got Vaka, and it's caught over the shoulder, and a touchdown from 54 yards out.
He runs right.
Doesn't get awesome. Much better than that, watching your kid perform. I get to do it every day with you guys, but it's.
I appreciate that. Well, let's go. Let's get to, because I cannot wait to have them on the show. I think there's so much to talk about between content, science, and sports.
We'll play wake up music. We will have their walk-up music, and then we're right into Rob Vaka and my man, Jonathan Brenkus. Wake up, everybody! Get up! Get up! Get up! Get up! Wake up. Come on. Come on. Wake up, everybody! Teach a new way. Maybe then and listen. What you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in there. No more about to thinking. Time to thinking ahead. Come on.
Everything good comes back around. We back in the speakers, back in black, getting blasted in the bleachers. It's probably true what my mama said. I do it just like my daddy did. We back in the saddle, back on stage, making the whole place rattle. Back with the A-team, train on the track. Thought we were gone, but you're wrong. Now it's on. We back.
Oh, a little Aldine. We back.
Are we live?
We are live.
Am I on fire?
Always. I've never seen you not on fire.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right. How are you guys?
We're living the dream. Welcome to the Nudelberg Daily Huddle. Thank you guys for being in the hot seat. And as we always like to do with our huddlers in the hot seat, this is your opportunity to give us your story. Tell us where you come from.
First of all,
after you got out of jail, let's do that part.
Yeah, let me just tell you, we're going to start right now. Put on the bottom of the screen. Go to Brinks.tv, BRINX.tv. It's down there scrolling. Or download the app, Brinks TV, the next generation of sports and entertainment. We are the only network that pays you to bang your ex. Now you just got to download the app and figure out why. Bid, buy, bet.
Oh, shit.
Here at Brinks TV, I want you to know.
What the hell's going on out here?
What is that?
That was Vince Lombardi, because he got excited and he brought in Vince Lombardi.
What the hell is going on?
Anyway.
So we know what you do now, Brinks TV, and I remember you from Sports Science. And Rob, I've known you and been privileged to have conversations about college football recruiting and your entrepreneurial journey. But tell us how you guys have come together to do this and why you guys have come together.
I'll give you the quick backstory as to how John and I met.
Skip the Tinder part.
I'll skip the Tinder part. Just like Steve, I met Steve in a hotel lobby. Oh, let's
skip it. Skip it.
So
it's getting real interesting.
11 or 12 years ago in Indianapolis, during the Giants-Patriots Super Bowl week, as you and I, Steve, have been to some of these Super Bowl weeks, I was there, went to an event, met John. We became thick as thieves. We became boys. We developed a friendship. That was over a decade ago. And we have been collaborating on different business ventures over the years, to the point that John was ready to move out of Park City. I talked him into coming to Atlanta. He moved to Atlanta 3 years ago. The rest is history. He's a Southern boy now. He's out on the lake every afternoon. Wow. He acts like he's got an accent. He says,
oh, the old Brian Kelly treatment?
He claims he's a Georgia fan now. And from a business perspective, we're crushing it. Things are blowing up. And I'm going to let John talk about Brinks TV and the idea he had through the time he was at ESPN and how he exited and now what Brinks TV has become.
Listen, Nudelberg, you know, your Rolodex is insane. And that's true. Rob Vaka's Rolodex is like, he's got God on speed dial. He's just like, ow, he needs something. I got God right here. So you all know Sports Science went 1,800 segments. We won 6 Emmys. Who's counting? Wrote a New York Times best-selling book on human performance. What a lot of people don't know is that Sports Science was one of 20 different shows that we had. Sold the Sports Science to ESPN, sold our company to other conglomerate, and said, what's next? And what's next is the ultimate convergence of content and commerce, Brinks TV. So I spent millions of dollars, 6 years developing the ultimate interface. Now, I always knew we had really good content in our back pocket. It's all I've ever done. But we had to spend a lot of time developing the perfect platform where you come in, you can watch, you can shop, you can bid, buy, bet. We have a whole currency system that's Brinks Bucks, where we reward you. We pay you to watch TV. You got to be an idiot to pay somebody to watch TV. So we pay you, and you get a Brinks Buck for every minute that you watch, every dollar you spend, every time you bang your ex. And it's an unbelievable ecosystem. I know you're trying to get a word in edgewise, but I'm not going to let that happen.
Well, no. So let's dive into the content, because I think this is a great conversation. I mean, our business is built on, human performance. That's what we love to do, is get involved with organizations, help elevate their human performance. I was actually in, football coaching as you were doing sports science and taking all of the data analytics that were really new to the world. This was a groundbreaking time for sports to be marrying science to what was actually happening. Can you talk to us a little bit about the combination of art and science? You've got some great content with breaking down the GOAT code, but you've been doing this for decades. Talk to us about the content of marrying data and science and the art of that in order to be great.
So what a lot of people don't know about the story of sports science, which, look, incredibly blessed to have been part of it, incredibly blessed to have a great partner like ESPN. But that was a long journey where our company actually had two divisions, a sport division and a science division. And we did programming for National Geographic and Discovery Channel. And we were doing shows like Fight Science, the Young Scientist Challenge, like all science. We did the first live daily science program called Science Live. Then we were also doing sport programming with the believe it or not, the Washington Bullets way back. We had that the Bullets, then now Wizards, Capitals for 17 years. First with Abe Pollin, then with Ted Leonsis. And then we just expanded. We had tons of teams around the country where we're doing profiles and PSAs and coaches shows and all that. Then we put it together in a program called XMA, Extreme Martial Arts. It was tied in with The Last Samurai. Tom Cruise was doing the raps for it. And that was kind of martial arts science light. But that was top 10 all time for Discovery. And then National Geographic came along and said, we love that. Why don't you go ahead and do Fight Science and get the world's greatest martial artists, bring them into a place and science it up. So we created Fight Science. Fox owned Fox Sports and also National Geographic. And it was top 10 of all time on Fox Sports. They go, oh my God, people love this stuff. What's next? I said, well, the Fight Science approach really would work for all sports. So we're going to do a show called Sport Science, where we look at the science behind all sports. This is in 2006. So there was no iPhone, there were no Fitbits, there were no sensors that were used to measure human performance. And we were at the forefront of blazing the trail of, well, here are the metrics that matter. And over the course from 2006 to now, where Sports Science, the original 26 episodes we did with Fox Sports, still air in 90 different countries. And, ESPN bought the property and they're still rolling out segments here and there. And I'm really grateful. So we're relaunching that idea and taking it to the next level with the GOAT Code and with our partnership with the Hall of Fame, Village Media, with the Pro Football.
Show me GOAT Code. Show me what the GOAT Code is.
We're cracking the code on the greatest of all time.
If you want to be great, you have to have a sacrifice and then believe in what you see every time you step on the field.
My parents were all about education. They said, hey, boy, there's no future in football for you.
It's really boring trying to be great, but you got to learn to love it and just push through the grind.
Offensive linemen, they're punching majority of the time, so I had to figure out how to protect myself. I had mixed martial arts.
Ware comes off of the edge and takes Manning down. He's unstoppable. Incredible cut by Sanders, and he's off to the races.
My awareness, my senses were so heightened, I put the brakes on and made a U-turn, and then everything just slowed down. It was nothing more than time travel.
So you said something before that trailer that I want to talk about, and I want to tie that to the GOAT Code. You said the metrics that matter. I was a part of the sports science wave. We got involved with a company called Catapult that started measuring everything that we were doing on the football field. And they were giving us a ton of data and a ton of information. But the reality was we were working with football coaches that could barely use a mechanical pencil. Forget about breaking down data analytics in order to figure out how to really apply it. So how did you guys get to a point where you could figure out what were the metrics that really mattered that we could give to people that were worth anything? And on the other side of that, how do you get the greatest of all time to really do that?
So the answer to that is simple. You have, if you want to know what matters, you talk to the people who are the greatest of all time. So Jerry Rice was our first guest on Sports Science back in the Fox days. And I said to Jerry Rice, I'm like, listen, no offense, but you are the greatest of all time, but you're not that fast. And I don't mean that in an offensive way. I mean, we all know you're a 4'6" guy. Right. You're a 4'7" guy. How in the world are you the greatest? Undeniably. And he said, here's why. Because I couldn't run all that fast, relative to the human population is blazingly fast, but relative to the NFL, He wasn't, but he said, because I don't hit a top speed that's Darryl Green speed, I can stop a lot faster than anyone else. So deceleration is way more important than acceleration for receivers, because the D-backs can't stop on a dime. And if you talk to Darryl Green about the most difficult receivers to cover, it's those who were slower because they could stop. And Darryl Green, who is the fastest player ever in the history of the league, had a really hard time dealing with people like Steve Largent and Jerry Rice.
Fantastic. I mean, so as you found out those metrics, you figured out a really creative way to present it to people. I think that's the other part of content. You could have great content, but if you can't figure out a way to present it to people in a way that they can consume it, it really doesn't mean anything. Is that what's to be expected from Brinks TV, from what you guys have going on in terms of content? Is we're going to give you the metrics that matter, but we're going to give it to you in a way that's, highly receivable and understandable and applicable?
Absolutely. The GOAT code that we're doing in partnership with the Hall of Fame Village Media. So every single Hall of Famer is going to get a bronze bust, gold jacket, and a GOAT code segment. And here's what we're really looking at with cracking the code. What was the difference? Like, for example, if you look at DeMarcus Ware and you say, how was he so good? Well, first of all, the guy wasn't really recruited in high school. He had one offer, Troy. He went to Troy University, where he was a late bloomer. And what he realized is that growing up, he had this base of martial arts where he was able to use people's momentum against themselves. And he had excellent hand work, where he knew where to place his hand to have an advantage over his opponent. When you start breaking down, well, that's what really mattered. Yes, he's big. Yes, he's fast. Yes, he's strong. But everybody at that level is big and strong and fast. So what are those little things that are different? The GOAT code takes a deep dive into the things that people never really think about or realize that made a difference for an athlete.
So I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute. You've done a ton of different interviews. You've got to, interview the greatest of all time, and you're putting together this content. It's very specific for DeMarcus Ware to say it was my martial arts background that was my differentiation. It's, it's one thing for Jerry Rice to say it was my, deceleration. It's one thing. Those are all specific to that person. Do you have any commonalities? Do you have any kind of basic fundamentals or larger philosophies that all of them kind of embody that people could look to use?
Totally. Absolutely. Greatness is defined by never truly achieving your full potential, because you're constantly raising the bar. Mike Jordan is constantly saying, God, I need a fadeaway jump. I got a fadeaway because if everybody knows I'm going to be driving the lane. So you're never done with the process. You just don't hear interviews from the greatest of all time who say, yeah, I'm great. Like, they just never say that. So that's one. Two, there's a huge difference between being calm under pressure and freaking out. And most people freak out. You're on the free throw line. There's 1 second to go. You've got to hit the shot. Kobe, did he say, man, I'm super nervous? Or was he like, give me the ball. Give it. I'm going to sink it. And if I don't, guess what? I'll sink the next one. That idea of staying calm under pressure, it is huge. And three, the most important thing in greatness is being able to define and identify patterns. Pattern recognition defines greatness in every field. It doesn't mean, oh my God, I've seen this 1,000 times and I know what's happening. It means, oh, I've seen it twice and I know what's going to happen next. That's why young quarterbacks in general have an edge over older quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, because if you're a young Ben Roethlisberger and you make it to the Super Bowl and you're playing against somebody who's much older than you are, well, you made it to the Super Bowl because you can identify patterns like that. where an old Grizzly veteran may have seen it 1,000 times, but it never is sunk in as to the pattern recognition.
And
so my question is, did he pay you, Mark? Did you pay him to say that? Because are you better than me? Is that because I've seen it 1,000 times, man?
No,
what
so
the hell's going on? Come on, man. What I mean,
I think and there's something that we're talking about here that I think is super important when you talk about pattern recognition, which is suddenness. Right? Everybody talks about speed. Speed kills, and the faster you can go, the better you are. But I think people think about fast as just moving really quickly, whereas suddenness is the ability to recognize the trigger and then respond to the trigger faster than everybody else. And that's what pattern recognition really allows you to do. Rob, I want to kind of move to you for a second, and I want to ask you a question because I know you have a son that's going through the recruiting process. He's doing really well in his high school career right now. Having access to these kinds of people, having access to this kind of information, and being able to get this kind of education at 16, 17 years old as you're going through your athletic career, what's it been like trying to help your son through that and not like apply all this pressure and information that you have that you know can help him be successful, but also equip him with the tools that give him an advantage on everybody else?
Well, the good news is he's got a lot of good people around him, right? John is like an uncle to him, and John has spoken to him a bunch of times about a bunch of things. And to be candid, probably the greatest thing that John tells him is, you're special. You're different. You're not special and different because you're a great football player. You're special and different because I don't know a lot of 17-year-olds who think like you do, who act like you do, who carry themselves like you do, who are humble like you are. So having people like John or Larry Fitzgerald around him has been very, very important. In terms of all this information and all these people, he's grown up around this. I remember taking him to the Super Bowl in Atlanta. John and I went to the Super Bowl, and we were at an event with Lawyer Malloy. Lawyer's a great player, played for the Patriots. And I introduced Kyle to Lawyer, and Kyle's like, oh, hi. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, well, Dad, all of your friends are football players. So it's just another one of your friends. I'm not treating him different or worse. So it's been really interesting. As you know, from a college football recruiting standpoint, John and I have a daily show, and that daily show is called the NIL House, the epicenter of all things NIL. It is literally Sports Center for NIL. The interesting thing about what we do is we report on all the things that are going on, the deals, the brands, the players, the collectives, the schools, Congress, NCAA itself. As you can see, we believe that the NCAA is an HOA. And what happens with your HOA? You look at your HOA and you're like, I'm not cutting my bushes down. You told me I can't paint my house gray. I don't care. I'm painting my house gray. Shut up. Yeah. And everybody's become like that with the NCAA. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And I think what the NCAA did, leading back to my son, what the NCAA did 2 years ago in the summer of 2021 is they opened 3 lanes of traffic when there probably is only 1 lane to run in. And those 3 lanes are NIL with no guidelines or guardrails, the transfer portal with few guidelines or guardrails, and an extra 6th year for COVID. So now you have 26-year-old men who are on their 3rd school, and you have complete chaos in the recruiting world to the point where one Power 5 coach told me, a group of 5 coach told me, I don't know if we'll take any high school recruits this year. We want grown men that have hair on their fill in the body part.
Well, and you also get to, like, I can speak to this. You don't have to take the chance on the 18-year-old that you're hoping will develop. There's so many fallbacks from the Power 5 that you can go get and say, hey, you can come play here right now. You're going to be a difference maker on the team. You're going to be a difference maker in the conference, and you're going to get somebody that's already acclimated to college, that's already acclimated to the business of what they're being asked to do, which can only help you as a group of 5 school as opposed to a Power 5. Shay, give me overtime because there's way more to be had here.
And we'll go to overtime.
Only very few have earned overtime, so congratulations.
There you go.
So this is more topical, but I really just want to get your guys' opinion on this. I remember when I was at Florida State and they did the first conference realignment when they started talking about Louisville coming in and Syracuse coming in. And I remember sitting in the room with all of the GAs going, if this is what's happening now, and we're in 2010 or whatever it was at that point, what's going to stop it from all moving and from it eventually being the haves versus the have-nots, and they're essentially being 2 conferences as opposed to 1? And we had fun, and we put the teams in that would go, and we broke it up geographically to make it make sense. And it was like, why would that not work? Well, the one reason it wouldn't work would be the NCAA, right? They were the problem. They were the thing that was going to keep that from happening. What's your guys' take on the way that that's continued to evolve with what's currently happening with conference realignment? And do you see us ever really truly breaking away from the NCAA and it being its own business?
Well, I'll go quick and John can finish. On our show, on the NIL House show, we have something called the Brenkus Rant. And John rants about once a week in terms of what the NCAA is doing to step on itself, which is a lot. And the reality is, maybe as early as next week, you're going to have the Pac-2. Think about that. The Pac-2.
Wow.
And a lot of people believe, and we're in that bunch, a lot of people that believe that within 12 to 18 months, you're going to have a 40-something team league with Power 5 football, and you're going to have a 40-something team league with Group of 5 football, and the NCAA is going to melt away and melt back into other sports. The reality is, with conference realignment, it doesn't take a lot to realize that football is played primarily on Saturdays, unless you're the MAC, and then you play on every
day. Every day.
But the reality is, if you're a field hockey team or a softball team or a volleyball team, do you want your kids on Tuesday night traveling from Southern California to Clemson, Ohio, and then missing 3 days of school? The answer is you probably don't. It's taxing on these athletes going cross country. We're talking about Cal and Stanford going to the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, getting 2 West Coast team. Makes no sense, but this is the world we're in.
Yeah, but to their defense, California is now identifying as an East Coast state. So, I mean, it just doesn't matter, right? So let me tell you something. The NCAA as an organization has been predatory on kids. They have said, okay, if you are a student, you're just Sally Baked Goods. That's your name. And if you are just going to the University of Alabama and you say, I want to bake muffins out of my dorm, I want to sell them for $10,000 a piece, you can do that. But God forbid in 2020, you were the starting quarterback for Alabama and you just wanted to sell an autographed jersey. The NCAA was like, that's ours. We own you. So now they let the genie out of the bottle in June of 2021. And now they're like, well, how do we put it back in? Here it is. Congress. We're going to call in Congress. You want to know why? Because there's nothing that people love more than politicized sports. Everybody's like, Congress has the answer. So you know what the SEC is going to do? They're going to say, hey, NCAA, you're my HOA. We out of here. Because if Alabama plays Georgia in a parking lot at Walmart, they're going to get 100,000 people to show up, whether or not it's an NCAA event. So the NCAA is useless. They neutered themselves. They'll be walking dead and they don't even know it.
The only thing I'm disappointed about is that you need to come out of your shell a little bit, just a little bit. I want to see a little, like Jake said, just a little bit more passion about this stuff because people want to see passion.
I think this is a great preview for you guys, and it's a great, teaser for what's to be had by, tuning into your guys' content. And it's an unbelievable conversation. Before we close out here, the way we like to usually end it is give the microphone to you guys. And what's one thing that every huddler should know about you guys? Obviously, John, your background in sports science, we got great visibility into that. But if you're in the room with all of the huddlers, what's the one thing you want everybody to know about you personally?
You got to know that we pay you to watch TV. Go to Brenkus.tv. Sign up, single sign on, single click, boom, you're in. You are going to be exposed to Brenkus TV, the kingdom of awesomeness. Don't miss out on it. We pay you to watch TV.
You get to bang your ex there, man. That's like
you bang your ex all day long, and we pay you to bang your ex.
Steve, you gotta be careful because I
a lot of those.
There's a lot of
those. There's a lot.
That can be expensive. That can be very expensive.
Right. Rob, what's the one thing that everybody's got to know?
Listen, this guy is very quiet and he's calm and he never gets excited. But I want you all to know he believes that positivity begets positivity. He's a good buddy with John Gordon, the energy bus guy. And for the world to know what we don't promote, but John, once a month or so, he goes and speaks to companies like you do, Steve. And he's got a motivational message and he helps people understand how to get your team fired up. Doesn't do the organizational performance stuff that you guys do, as you can see, a little too all over for that. But he is a passionate dude who believes in positivity.
I love it. Fantastic stuff.
Awesome.
So Patrice has already signed up for Brenkus TV. Super excited for you guys. Thank you so much for being on the show. Great conversation. And as always, get on the ball, stay on the ball. Thank you guys.
Thanks, fellas. And thanks, Patrice.
God bless you all.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business.